4th, 1998. I was 14 years old. It was a weekday, so I was going to school and I would come home for lunch at about 2 or 3 p.m. in the afternoon. That day I was eating alone, being that late. My father had probably already come home from work and gone back to work again. My brother had come home from school and gone somewhere else. My mom also had come home from school, and then she probably ate with my brother or my dad. And so that day, like any other school day, I would eat alone. I was just alone, just me. But that day was the day of my birthday. I probably had planned something for the weekend, but nothing special really for that day, being a work day, a school day. So I remember sitting at the table, maybe watching TV, when my mom brought to the table curated latte, or carrots with milk. And I just loved curated latte. They were my favorite food. I could eat them breakfast, lunch, and dinner. For sure, my favorite food. And I don't know if the recipe came from her or if she got it from someone else, maybe her mom, I don't know. I had only seen her cooking them, and I just loved them. But that day, that 4th of April in 1998, curated latte went from being my favorite food to being my most meaningful food. Because my mom cooked them fresh just for me. She came home late from work, she didn't cook them for the others, she made them fresh just for me. To me, they were the best present she could ever have given me. Because they represented my mom, my mother's love. A gift that I still carry inside with many, many emotions. Curated latte are my most meaningful food because they represent that act of love. They represent my mother's love. So, meaningful food. We are here to talk about meaningful food today. Very early in my school career and then later on work career, I found myself realizing that meanings were kind of fundamental in the act of designing food or around the act of designing food or around the act of eating. And so I became interested in finding out what meanings were. The first step for me was understanding what are meanings actually, where do they come from, how does something become meaningful. And so the literature is quite filled with interesting things about what meanings are and where they come from philosophical perspectives, psychological perspectives, indeed design theory perspective. But I'm going to show you a model that I think summarizes quite well what meanings are and how they come about. And I think this is of fundamental importance for anybody wanting to design something. Because my approach was, if I'm here, I'm studying design and I'm here to design something. If I'm here to put something new into this world, something that wasn't there before, I don't want just to design another chair, another sandwich, another cafe with nothing to say. If I'm putting something into the world, I want to make sure it's meaningful, that it says something to people, that it is of value to people. So, I'm going to show you what meanings are. Let's say that there is a person, right? Usually we design for people. Unless you design, dog food, in that case you have a dog here. Usually there is a person and there is an external stimulus. A stimulus is anything that you are perceiving, anything in your perceived reality. It could be the chair under your palm, it could be the distant noise that comes coming from somewhere, it could be me, I'm a stimulus for you right now, a visual and auditory stimulus for you. So anything that is around us and on which we bring or we don't bring our attention to is a stimulus. And then there is, when we interact with this stimulus, there are our experience of the stimulus starts. And experiences have 3 levels. At the first level, we have the aesthetic experience. The experience that comes from interacting with the stimulus through our 5 senses. I see the cake, I can touch the cake, I can smell the cake, I can taste the cake, etc. I'm interacting with it with my 5 senses. So my brain, my body is acquiring knowledge, information about the stimulus. And then we have the experience of meaning. At this level, we have cognitive processes coming in that allow us to acquire information and to create metaphors, and therefore, and definitely assign significance to that stimulus. What is important here is that the meaning, the significance that we attach to a product is not the result of the product. It's the result of the product, what I achieve through my 5 senses, and the person I am. The same stimulus will have the same stimulus will have a different significance for me, for you, etc. Because all of us are completely unique human beings. So the meaning that you get from your plate, from your dish, from your whatever you design is going to be different for every person because we are all different. And at the 3rd level, we have the emotional experience. At the 3rd level, because of the meaning that we have assigned to that product, emotions arise. So when you hear about, so what does this tell us? First of all, that experiences are layered, and all of this happens very, very quickly, instantaneously. And I also want to say that the experience of a stimulus, of a noise of somebody dropping something far away is something that our brain processes very, very quickly. But an experience of you going to Asma's restaurant and sitting down for a couple of hours and having her food, that would be an experience in which our brain, to which our brain gives a lot of attention. And so all of this happens way more consciously, way more slowly, and everything is more complex. But what do we learn from this? We learn that we can't design experiences. So when you hear people talking about experience design, I think that what they actually mean is that we are designing for experiences. We learn that we can never, ever, ever anticipate what the experience of the user is going to be. Because you can only work on the external stimulus. You can only work on its shape, smell, taste, texture, temperature, etc. You cannot ever know what the meaning and the emotions that are going to be triggered in that person. Now, there are ways for us to make sure we can design a stimulus that goes as close as possible to different possibilities of an experience that we would like our guests to have. When does this happen? When we do a lot of design around that stimulus. But just know that even if you, even with a lot of design or design thinking around the stimulus, you're never certain of which experience, which meanings are going to be attributed to that stimulus from each individual. So I learned that meanings are subjective, of course, that I can design for meanings. For sure, I can't design meanings, and I should do a lot of work to move towards the experience that I want my customers, my clients, my customer users to have. No. So it became important for me to understand what meanings are from another perspective, in terms of where do mean, here something should have happened, but it didn't, so maybe I will go back, see? I wanted to understand where meanings come from. How does some food become meaningful to some people and other food doesn't? I wanted to go to people. And so I literally went in search of meaningful food, which is a project that I started a few years ago. I sent out a call for participation when I asked people to send me a video where they tell me the story of their most meaningful food. And so far I've collected about 120 stories. This is the website, and I'm still collecting them. So if you have a story that you want to share, I would be very happy to listen to it. And this search, this collection of stories that I've been so privileged to get in touch with, have taught me quite a bit. And through them, I have met some wonderful people. For example, I met Vera, an Italian living in Argentina, who remembers her grandmother in her blue apron making Nutella sandwiches for her and her cousins. And then I met Eleanor from New Zealand, who talks about how picking berries connects her to the land and to the wider community of berry pickers in the world. And then I met Herbrand, Dutch, living in New Zealand, who is a grown man expressing the passion of a child when talking about salty licorice. And then I met Kendra, German. She has been traveling the world for 6 years. She only eats raw food, and she told me about her passion for weeds and how when she sees a garden, she sees a huge pot of salad. And then I met Marta from Colombia, who told me about the best boiled crabs she has ever had on the beach with her feet on the sand. And then I met Laura from Italy, who told me about her grandmother fried chicken and how she suffers knowing that she will never eat it again. And then I met Emily, who told me about her leek and potato soup, a dish that she has been cooking for ages, but she doesn't know when she's going to cook it again, or if she will ever cook it again, because it was the last meal that she prepared for her father. And then I met Will from Australia, who cried, talking about that kangaroo meat cooked on a stone in that place, quote, where the earth meets the sky. And then I met Eric from New Zealand as well, who summarizes this entire project in one sentence. There should be audio. Let's do this again.
I think I probably make them about as good as they were, but they'll never be as good as I remember, basically.
I think I make them as good as they were, but they will never be as good as I remember them. So, my question then is, if I'm a designer and I kind of understand meaningful food, how do I design for meanings? What do I do to design for meanings? Which is why I'm here and what I'm here to pass to you. I'm going to tell you two different things about two different suggestions about how to design for meanings. And here is the first one. The first one is to design for the 4 types of pleasure. The first one is called physio-pleasure. And these are the pleasures that are elicited by interacting with the external stimulus, whatever you are designing, through our 5 senses. For example, this is a tablecloth. That is a normal tablecloth with a flowery pattern, but when you accidentally spill like wine on it, a new pattern emerges and you have butterflies. This is a tablecloth that visually transforms a possible act of embarrassment, oh my god, I spilled something, into something magical. This is another very famous object that creates a pleasure through our sense of hearing. This thing here has a lovely sound, if you know. I'm guessing everybody knows this thing. This one has a lovely sound when the water is boiling. And then this is a salt and pepper shaker that you have to break in order to use it. You know, we all I think all of us grew up with this fear of breaking ceramic. Instead, here the designer is telling you, you have to break ceramic if you want to use this object. So In this case, we are triggering users' pleasure with the sense of touch. And then there are social pleasures, which are the pleasures that emerges through human connection. For example, this is a restaurant in New York City where you eat sitting on beds instead of tables, and this allows a type of social connection different from tables and chairs. This is another example. This is a sharing economy concept where somebody with a garden, or even just a piece of garden or piece of land, can give that piece of garden to someone who wants to grow fruit and vegetables. So I give my garden, I have somebody coming to grow beautiful food, I get a little bit of the food, my garden is used instead of being, overgrown with nothing, etc. Social connection. This is an example from Mariah Vogelsang and her Christmas dinner, probably the first project from her debut. Many of you might know her, but it's still my favorite one, so I show this very often. This is her Christmas dinner. Christmas for her is about sharing, and it is about equality, being all equal. So she made this huge tablecloth with cuts for the head and for the hands. Inside this tablecloth, the tablecloth would hide people's clothes and jewelry. And inside this tablecloth, everybody looks the same. Christmas. Also, she had these plates that are in two halves. On one side of the table, two halves with palm ham, and on the other side, two halves with melon. So literally, people had to share half of their plate to have the entire dish. Social connection. And then we had psychopleasures, which are the pleasure elicited by accomplishing a task. This is Maria Vogelsang again, and she made this event because she wanted her kids to start familiarizing themselves with vegetables. And so she organized this little party where kids had to make jewelry using only their teeth. Or this is another type of project. This is a home composter. They have some type of thing that make composting very quick. And so I think in about a week you have at home your compost. This is a psychopleasure because you are accomplishing a task. You're making compost at home, on your own, etc. Or something simple as this. This is one example of these mushrooms that you can grow at home. I think there are various brands that do it now. This is a psychopleasure because users have the opportunity of growing their own mushroom, and the mushroom that you grow on your own tastes way better than those that you buy at the supermarket. And then there are ideal pleasures, which come about when we experience products or services that link with our values. For example, this is an example of a zero packaging supermarket, so it aligns with my values. Therefore, when I go in there, it is a more pleasant experience than a normal supermarket. This is a type of product that transforms this type of scenario into food. This is a thread made with orange juice byproducts. And this is a type of leather-like material that comes from the byproduct of pineapple, of the pineapple industry, pineapple juice, etc. So these are these are products that trigger that ideal pleasures because they align with whatever values you have in you. The other thing that I want to tell you about designing for meanings is there's something happening here. As I said in the beginning, if you can't design experiences, you can't design certain meanings, but you can design the stimulus so that it triggers the experiences that you want people to have. So you have to work on that stimulus. And my proposition is, I talked about this yesterday, this process that I call food design thinking. These are the 52 methods that I've put together. Many of them I came up with them myself. And all of these methods guide you to always think about the exact meanings or values or emotions that you want to trigger from the very beginning to the very end of the process. And you have to make sure that, I think, my argument is that you have to make sure that you embed this type of goal into your entire process and in each activity that you do. It's not like, oh, let's design something, and by the way, I want it to be meaningful to people, whatever that means. And the other thing that I want to tell you about designing for meanings, which is something that this food design thinking process takes into account in every phase, is something that I called, is something that moves towards cohesiveness. Okay, I'll show you first. And I'm going to explain to you this concept of cohesiveness through this thing that I call the food design target. You will get in a moment why I call it target. So that's a human being again, unless you're designing dog food, okay? In that case, there would be a dog over there. But most of us design for human being. And then there is the food. So I'm going to design, let's say, food, or for food, whatever product. Let's say for food in this example, that is designed exactly for what I want to achieve. Now, the food is first, because in the experience of food, in the experience of eating, in any eating experience, food is the closest, is the stimulus that is closest to us. It's the only stimulus that actually comes inside our body. So it's the stimulus that has the closest connection with human beings. And then we have its vessel. The food doesn't fly, so it has to be somewhere. And so the food and the vessel has the closest connection, but then the food and the vessel has the closest connection with human beings, because even though I can't eat, I can't taste the vessel, so I lose one of the senses, I still have all other four involved. And then we have the space, so all the elements of the space eating around us. So what I'm saying is that cohesiveness should come from these. So making sure that I design a food and a vessel and a space that all tell the same story. So I want the lighting, the music, the carpet, the seat that I'm on to be cohesive with the plate that I'm touching and I'm holding, and definitely in the end with the food that I'm bringing inside of me. But also, I urge you to design for cohesiveness in the relationships, human relationships that are happening around the act of eating. First of all, the relationship between the person eating and her companion. More often than not, people eat with somebody, unless you're eating alone. You could be eating with your business partner, with your mom, your boyfriend or girlfriend, etc. And I can design, I can do something, even if you design just a product, not necessarily an entire system, I can do something to design for that relationship. And then there is the relationship between the person and the service staff, because yes, we know that what the service staff say, what they're wearing, the timing between dishes, etc. And the whatever interaction that is built between me and the service staff has an impact and influences the overall eating experience. And I want this relationship, we want this relationship between me and the service staff to be coherent with the space, the vessel, and the food. And then we have also something that we always forget, I think, most of everything, the relationship between the person and the other people eating around. I remember this one Michelin star restaurant where I was eating here, and over here started the other table, and the gentleman sitting on my left, we were basically eating together, but this gentleman, for some reason that day, had a very strong body odor. So I remember his body odor more than anything else that I had, or the food that I had. Hello? Yes, in that special restaurant. So things like this could have, an element like this could have been designed out of my experience, but it wasn't. So cohesiveness comes from remembering all of this and from designing all these elements so they can be coherent with one another. Example, Aston Blumenthal designs his appetizer on the wall. So you're sitting at the table, the waiter comes in and says, your appetizer is served on the wall. So suddenly, these walls that have always been there are your vessel on which you're going to eat. So you come from the, stand up from the table, and you find yourself licking a wall close by to other strangers. So this is an example of a food, a vessel, and a space coherently designed for the relationship, for a specific type of interaction between the person and the other strangers eating around. This is pinch food design. Here they design a buffet type of event. And so the waiters were walking around with this umbrella where these biscuits, churros, whatever they are, were hanging on. So this is an example of a food and a vessel specifically designed for a certain type of interaction, to create a certain type of interaction between the person and the waiter eating around. Instead of just, oh yes, thank you, I'll take this. You would have to, hey, wait, let me grab this, hold on for a moment, and these things would be banging on your head, etc. And finally, the spaghetti and meatball from Lilia de Trump, an example of a food that has been clearly designed for a specific type of interaction between the person and her companion. And so I call this the food design target. You see, it looks like a target. And it's just to prompt some type of thinking around cohesiveness. Because this is one way to design for meanings. When you use everything that is around an eating experience to communicate a certain message, a certain story, you have way more chances to achieve that type of experience that you are after. So, when does food become meaningful? I want to give you a few examples so you can take them home with you. Food becomes meaningful when, for example, it recreates an experience from a beloved book. This is Heston Blumenthal, and this is the Drink Me potion from Alice in Wonderland. So here he recreated, remembering the story, Alice finds this potion and she drinks it, and it tastes first like roast chicken and then apple pie, etc. So he was able to recreate the five or six recipes to a consistency and visual characteristics that were all the same, but the flavor were indeed different. And with this type of vessel, he was able to layer these recipes, these dishes, so that you will be able to taste one after the other, exactly like Alice in Wonderland did. Food can become meaningful when it is a one-time only experience. When you do something that happens only once in your life. So this, for example, is the Ice restaurant. It's in the Ice, close to the Ice Hotel. And the pictures look horrible because I took them myself, and it was the best thing I've ever done. I loved it. I've never worn so many clothes in one single moment, but it was awesome. And yes, you have to have a fire extinguisher in a restaurant made entirely of ice for health and safety reasons, go figure. Food can become meaningful when it connects you with the artist or the designer. So here, Yoli, for example, designed an entire tableware set, which taken from casts of her own body parts, and she filled them with food. And for her, it was her way. It was her metaphorical way of giving herself to her guests. Food can become meaningful when it allows human beings to go into space, where we kind of tend to take it for granted, but food is indeed one of the things without which we couldn't explore what is outside planet Earth. And food can become meaningful when it talks about social, environmental sustainability, for example, or food waste in particular. So this is a series of events created where guests had to dine inside a dumpster, and all the food was only, the food served was only food waste. Food can become meaningful when it makes us think about our habit and who we are becoming as a society. In this project, we have a recipe, blend it up, put into a pouch, and then connected to our mouth through a straw. So this is an example of critical food design that says we are becoming a society of people that have to work 10, 12 hours a day. Is this where we are going? So this is the type of project that makes us think. And now I want to tell you a bit of the reasons why food becomes meaningful, when food becomes meaningful, that came from the project In Search of Meaningful Food. So I showed you a few people before, and now I'm going to tell you all the reasons that I've collected from them of why food becomes meaningful. So it can be meaningful because it's a profound moment of taste. So there are foods that become meaningful only because of the taste and nothing else around. Because it is prepared in a moment. It's meaningful for me because I prepare it when I'm sad, or I prepare it when I'm joyful, etc. It can be meaningful because of the mouthful sensation, just because of the mouthful sensation. But what I can tell you is that that mouthful sensation couldn't have become meaningful if everything else around hadn't been coherent also, and allowed that mouthful sensation to make that dish blow out for that person. It could be meaningful because it's a recurrent moment shared with family. It could be meaningful because it's a symbol of cultural identity. It could be meaningful because it's a memory of a certain smell. It could be food can represent a sense of security. It could recreate memories of a specific travel. It could be about sharing authentic moments with strangers. It could become meaningful because of the contrast in texture, in flavors, and in temperatures. And it could become meaningful because it's a moment, it's something that you only cook together with other people. It could become meaningful because it reminds you of somebody who passed away. It could be a food that you will never cook again, or a food that you will never eat again. I had a story from somebody whose most meaningful food was the food she hated the most, because it was sardines on toast, and she says, quotes, "It reminds me of my mother's grief and the loss of my grandfather." And she never ate sardines on toast again. It could be meaningful because it's the last food that you prepare for someone. It could connect you to the land and to humanity, and it could be about memories of joyful or sad moments. But I thought that there should be audio. I'm gonna do this again. No? Let's do this again. There you go. I wanted to conclude this presentation and these reasons why food become meaningful, not with my own words, but with the words of the people that I met.
Ma è come se l'apprendizzaggio e il prodotto stesso facesse un po' da collante con le persone con cui la mangi.
Yes, there was a lot of family that was involved with that, but it was also a type of meal that I only got basically once a year.
What we're doing is we're trading part or leading people into our identity. We're showing them who we are and take pride in the exchange of that food.
Ma anche come un simbolo di essere colombiani. Quando tu stai nell'esterno di fare arepas, ti senti come a casa.
Smells and tastes just like home.
Cooking is not just taking food and put it in a pan and heat it or bake or do something. You have to put love in that as well. It's completely different for me. I can feel the love when it is getting cooked as on the dish. So.
And it's a food I cannot show you, unfortunately. This food is something I'm sure I will never taste again in my life.
This is not only my favorite food, it means fun, good mood, and fantastic memories of my grandma.
So the stir, wet jam, is a huge amount.
Gracias, Master.
Yeah, it's something I don't think it's even boxed on the right.
And then I met Simonetta. Simonetta's most meaningful food is veal brain, pan-fried veal brain. This is about 60s when she had it, and it reminds her of her mom cooking it for her and her brothers, and she remembers how, well, it was just the memory of her mom cooking it for them, but it was also about the texture that she enjoyed, the soft meat with the crunchy breading around. And her story told me that food can become meaningful when there is a sense of nostalgia. Simonetta has a daughter, her name is Francesca, and her most meaningful food is carrot and latte or carrots. Thank you.